certain gurus and stuff. So I wanted to share this. Number one, here we go. Number one, five relationship flags you should never ignore. One, talks bad about other people. If you hear that, oh, well, this person did this to me, that person did this to me, and I'm the way I am because this person did that, and so on, and always pointing fingers, that's bad. Because, one, and I will never forget this, years ago, I was younger. I remember talking about an ex, and
Yeah.
that person who I ended up getting into a relationship with told me straight up, like, I didn't like the fact that you spoke about an ex our first date. And ever
Mm.
since,
Taboo.
I was early
Taboo.
in my I was like 20. I was in my early 20s, 21, 22. So live and learn. I noted, and I'm like, okay, on a first date with someone new, never talk about it. But
Yeah.
that's just an example. But like when you're pointing fingers and like, especially if you start dating and everything, so well, that person, I am the way I am because this, that, and those people, not good. It's not good because the way I look at it and the journey I am, things happen, but I'm introspective about it. I also think about the things I've done. And I'm not going to sit there. If I'm going to talk about experiences, I'm also going to put on display to the person, like, but I did this, or I learned this from this. This happened, but I learned this. Instead of like playing victim of, oh, I am this way, etc., because of
Mm.
other people. What do you think about that one? I'm number one.
I completely agree. I have been in situations and dated people where they blame everyone. They don't look internally inside and they blame everyone else for the reason as to why they are how they are. And I think that it takes a big person and a lot of self reflection and self development
And
for you
growth.
to realize your and growth, for you to realize your faults and why you act the way that you act and why you react to things. Your response is your responsibility. And there have been, I was in a situation where I really liked the guy, really liked him. However, all he did, besides being pessimistic, all he did was talk badly about his ex-wife, his the mother of his children, and almost hinted that he regretted having children. If you have those strong thoughts with someone you just met and you're like basically divulging all this information right off the get-go, God knows what's going to happen whenever we go through a rough patch, you know? And that's just one instance. You have to also sit there and actually listen to people and what they say, because a lot of people will tell you things and sometimes you won't pay attention to it, or you'll be like, oh, I don't like that he said that, but whatever, carry on, let me still get to know him. But then it comes back to bite you in the ass. So just pay attention.
All right, number two, five relationship flags you should never ignore. People who are afraid to give you the truth. So when I say this,
Mm.
not answering your questions directly. Or- And this could be because they're afraid of judgment. They're afraid to really talk about what they really do occupation wise, etc. Maybe there's trust issues there.
Run
Opening up.
around.
But be aware when, getting close with someone like that. Listen, privacy is okay. Privacy is okay. There's some people who are private and don't want to put it all out there or be all out there. But being a little private and then, you know, being direct and to give the truth and being out there, you have to be careful with that. What's your thoughts on this? On number two.
I'm a very direct person, so I also have come from like the mindset where you can ask me a million questions and I will answer as many as I feel like answering. I don't I would never ask someone a question that I wouldn't be able to answer myself, you know. And sometimes I do believe ignorance is bliss, because the less you know the better you're off. However, if there is something that you absolutely need to know because it will make you sleep better at night, ask that question. If you're talking to someone and you feel that they're hesitant in telling you things like little key things about
Mm-hmm.
themselves in life, what makes you think that your mindset is going to be at ease later on when you guys get serious? It's not good, and that's part of bad communication.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. Not telling you the whole truth or the half
White
truth,
lies.
white lies
White
or half truths. where they give you just a little bit, but not fully the scope. So they feel because they mentioned somewhat of a partial truth that they don't feel like they truly lied or are admitting things. But it's like, no, yeah.
That's not a
Some
way to
people are
live,
partial.
honey.
Now, number 3, 5 relationship flags you should never ignore. Number 3, tendency of trying to change you. And when I say tendency of trying to change you, just an example, like let's say you go out on a date and they're like, why do you chew like that? Or why do you talk like that? Why do you use those certain words? Why are you so loud? Or things in that nature. It may seem like a joke because sometimes those things do come off as jokes, or the person saying it is trying to be jokey about it. But beware of that because it starts as jokes, ha ha ha. But once you get serious and progress, it could be a tumbleweed of like a bad experience. So beware of, especially at the beginning, of someone who's trying to change you, even if they're in a joking matter, like, oh, why do you talk like that? Or why do you always hang out with your friends so much? Things like that. Beware of those situations. What do you think?
I wish someone would. Listen, at the end of the day, if you're committed to someone, you're supposed to love them unconditionally. And you loving someone or being with someone with conditions is not the way to go. However, a lot of people, and I've noticed this in the dating world, date people knowing that they don't like certain attributes about the person or certain things that the person does, and they still go along with it because
I'm guilty of that.
they're trying to like hold on to the positive instead of like coming back and putting the negative parts on pause. You shouldn't do that. If you put your pros and cons list and you see that there's more cons than pros, then why even entertain that person? I'd rather not. I'd rather move on with my life, and hopefully you find someone for you too, because there's a pot for every lid.
Of course, yeah. Number 4, small talk. Small talk. I don't know. I don't know how much more to elaborate on this part, but
Mm.
be careful with small talkers. Like, what do you think about this? Go ahead. Go ahead. I feel like you have a lot to say and elaborate.
I have a lot to say because I experienced this. I dated someone and wasted, I want to say, almost 2 years of my life being in a relationship with a person that was just small talk. And if you don't have the communication where it flows, you guys don't even have the love language where you can carry a conversation and enlighten each other. Can I have a conversation about whatever? And see, because that stimulates my mind and that stimulates me as a person to have a conversation with someone and have the same characteristics or have things in common. If you can't even carry a conversation and all it is just small conversations and they don't want to talk too much, or this is another thing, this piggybacks with small talk. If you date someone that constantly tells you you ask too many questions,
You
that
mean
is a
trying to change
problem.
you? It piggyback from trying to change you.
Trying to change you, but also with small talk because they want to keep the small talk going. That's a manipulation move.
Yeah.
They don't want you asking a lot of questions because at the end of the day, they feel like you're invading their privacy when it shouldn't be that way. I
Exactly.
hate
Especially if
small
you're trying
talk.
to date or be with someone, how would you
Hmm.
consider that invading your privacy? No, I'm trying to get to know you. Aren't we trying to establish something? But again, this is why it's a flag to not ignore because those people are not that serious to try to be with you long run if they are so worried that you're talking too much or asking too many questions, like you said, and just giving you
Hmm.
small talk. How are you supposed to establish something meaningful if
How do you
that's how
know
it's running?
someone? How do
Exactly.
you know someone well through and through if you can't even have a decent conversation like that? And people like that, like I would literally be embarrassed to bring people around. You know this because it happened to me. To bring someone around that doesn't engage in conversation around a group of intellectuals or other people or friends and family, and all they want to do is like not talk because they're short on words, makes you look ignorant, glib, and boring as fuck.
Yeah. Yeah. Number 5 of 5 relationship flags you should never ignore: misalignment. And when I say misalignment, it could be
Mm,
it could be broken down in so many ways. Misalignment of ethics, idea, misalignment of ideas of the world, misalignment
mm-hmm,
of life purpose, um, And when it, for example, let's say you want to get married. You're someone who wanted to always get married. You meet a guy, but this person's not doesn't want to get married.
Hmm.
That's misalignment right there. That's
Yep.
misalignment right there. Or even like ethics, like you know how to raise your kids or whatever. Like right off the bat, if you're having those conversations and there's a misalignment, don't ignore that. A lot of people are
Exactly.
like you said, oh, maybe I could put it away, sweep it under, or maybe it could change him or whatever.
No.
No, 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 no,
I
no.
know that. I can attest to that because again, when you date and you're in the dating scene, be prepared, Charlie, because this is going to happen many, many times. You're going to meet guys, you're going to meet people that you are interested in getting to know. And then as the conversation flows and as the truths come out, you'll realize some people don't want the same things as you. For instance, I hung out with someone who we get along, we have good banter, but we both don't want the same things long term. Am I going to continue pursuing something with someone that doesn't want the